Aloha and welcome, everyone. Thank you for attending tonight's Lahaina Community Webinar. I'm Stephanie Nakasone Ramsey, Public Information Officer for the Office of Recovery. And we have quite a full agenda today, so we'll get right to it. First, we'll just go over a few housekeeping items for those who may have not joined us before. If you look at the bottom, if you're on a desktop, look at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a Q&A box. That's where you'll be able to submit any questions that you have for any of the presentations or just in general questions. You can utilize that box. Our panelists will either answer them directly in that box or we'll address them at the end during our Q&A. Well, I will say mostly at the end of the presentations with our Q&A as usual. It's a little bit of a wrinkle this time, and I'll go over that a little bit more when we go over our agenda. The chat box is mostly to be utilized by our panelists to share information. So if we have like a website or an email that we want to share out that maybe not be on a slide, that we can share it out that way. I think that's mostly what we need to know for housekeeping here. So we can move on. Can you, next slide, please? All right, and our friends at HICO wanted to share some of their handouts, their latest handouts. So the one on the left-hand side is regarding Lahaina streetlight installation. If you go to the first QR code on the left-hand side there, it'll take you to hawaiianelectric.com/West Maui, where you can see updates on streetlights installation in Lahaina, some of the areas that have already been worked on and some of the areas that are being worked on or will be worked on soon. And then the second QR code down there is if you want to submit an exact location where you want to request a streetlight be installed or re-energized. You can use that second QR code. And the other handout there is kind of just talking about how you can get electrical service back to your property, how to request that. So there's QR codes to request that, and then also to schedule an in-person meeting with HICO representatives over at the Gateway office, the Office of Recovery's Gateway office, the Lahaina Resource Center. That's the one that's by not by Lowe's, sorry, Ace Hardware. Ace Hardware and Sherwin-Williams now is open next door. So that's kind of where you're going to be looking. And we'll have these handouts as well. I know it's a little small on the screen. We'll have those handouts up for you all on Maui Recovers soon. Next slide, please. And I know we've been asked to provide some information on some financial counseling services. So here are some groups that you can go to for counseling on financial counseling. The first deals more with like overall financial counseling. So Money Management International. I want to thank the Long-Term Recovery Group for referring them to us, and as well as Hawaiʻi Community Lending also referred us to them as a resource. They've helped a lot of survivors already, and this is also you can reach them at their website there, moneymanagement.org, and their phone number. They offer debt management plans, debt repayment options, credit counseling, credit report review. And all that is on their website.
Steph, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can everyone see her slides? Because I cannot. Are you sharing screen?
Oh, I can see them on my end.
I can see them.
Okay, sorry for interrupting.
No, it's always good to check just in case. Sorry, going on, we have Hale Mahaolu. They offer a more for homeowners or potential homeowners, home ownership counseling program, which offers home buyer education classes, pre-purchase counseling, mortgage delinquency, default counseling, and IDA Savers program. And also Hawaiʻi Community Assets offers Lahaina-specific disaster financial counselors. And all the contacts are right there, websites and phone numbers as well. Next slide, please. Oh, can we move to the next slide? Can you hear me? Oh, there we go. Okay, and so now we get into our agenda. We have the DCCA here to go over rebuilding and tips concerning contracting. And this is where I said it's a little bit different than our usual we have Esther Brown from DCCA who's here, but she does have to run before the end of the webinar. So we ask that any questions regarding her presentation, if you can get those in the Q&A box, pretty quickly. We'll have the Q&A right after her presentation is wrapped up. And if you have any questions later on, we will be able to forward them to her and her team to answer at a later time. Then we also have sewer system updates from the Department of Environmental Management, a presentation on West Maui water sources from the Department of Water Supply, as well as the CDBG draft action plan overview from the Office of Recovery. And then, of course, as I said, the main Q&A will end our webinar. Next slide. And coming up, we have the next in-person community meeting, which is, as always, the first Wednesday of the month, unless there's a holiday. So that would be April 2nd at 5:30 at Lahaina Intermediate School Cafeteria. And the next community webinar will be the third Wednesday. I know there's 5 Wednesdays, so it might be a little confusing, but we'll still have it on the third Wednesday of the month, April 16th at 5:30. And you'll be able to register for that a few days beforehand. We'll have that up on Maui Recovers. Next slide. Mayor Bisson is unable to join us tonight. He is traveling out of state. So we will move on for now. I don't see Managing Director Nishita here quite yet. I know we're supposed to, hopefully he can join a little bit later. So we'll just move on for now. And yeah, and thanks. And we'll have John Schlack from the Army Corps of Engineers.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Donald Schlack. I work with the Honolulu Engineer District, and I will be sitting in for Lieutenant Colonel Kendall today. He is off island, but promises he will be back in person next time. Wanted to talk a little bit about some of the work that we're going to be doing in the next several weeks, that being the piling removal along Front Street. The pilings are being removed to address some safety concerns as that are left over after the fires. We consider this to be a crucial step in the ongoing recovery and the rebuilding process along the whole Front Street area. We're going to be mobilizing and starting to work later this week, and then we're going to be bringing in more equipment next week, and then working towards actually starting to pull the piles out starting on April 1. The contractor that we're using for this is the same contractor that did the Francis Scott Key Bridge. You may remember that in Baltimore, bridge that collapsed. They were able to get in and cut and remove the bridge in record time. So we're going to be using that same contractor through the Navy. And they're going to be doing the work in one of several ways. Either they'll be pulling pilings out, or they'll be saw cutting them with diamond saws as far down as they can go, or they may have to use oxyacetylene torches, depending on the material and the situation. So that'll be the work that they're doing. We're going to be having monitors on site, watching for EV or other items of cultural significance. And we don't expect to find any, but we'll deal with them appropriately. This is going to be a construction site, and as with any heavy construction site, people will need to keep their distance, both away from it on the water as well as the land. It'll be interesting, but please keep your distance. We're aware that there's going to be a surf meet in the area, and we'll be working closely with the surf meet organizers to make sure that we don't impact them, and we'll be doing any mitigations that we possibly can to help that going. And that's really it for the piling removal. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you, Don. And now we'll have Esther Brown from the State of Hawaii Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs. Hi, Esther, I think you're muted.
Hi, aloha everyone. Stephanie, I have a PowerPoint, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, you can just ask for the next slide.
Okay, next slide, please. And next slide, please. Thank you. Aloha, everyone. My name is Esther Brown, and I'm with the Regulated Industries Complaints Office. Basically, there are two organizations in the DCCA that partner to regulate certain industries. The licensing boards that are attached to the Professional and Vocational Licensing Division and RICO, or the Regulated Industries Complaints Office. Together, the licensing boards and RICO partner to police misconduct in the industries, but we have separate and independent roles. The licensing boards are like the officials or judges. In other words, they set the licensure standards and they review, grant, deny, and can take away professional licenses. RICO, on the other hand, are the investigators and prosecutors. So we get involved when allegations of misconduct arise in an industry. Organizationally, RICO is a statewide agency. We have offices on Maui, as well as Oahu, Big Island, and Kauai. And our charge is to enforce the licensing laws through individually filed complaints that allege that a licensee has committed misconduct or that unlicensed persons are doing industry work that require a license. We have over 4,000 statutes and regulations under our domain, and we regulate 51 industries in addition to the construction industry. So we regulate real estate, healthcare, travel, automobile industry, just to name a few. How does RICO work? Well, we receive in excess of 7,000 complaints and inquiries annually. Of those complaints, we are able to close about 1,500 or so, sometimes more. And we are able to take legal action in several hundred cases. And by legal action, I mean we are actually making recommendations to the boards and they end up disciplining licensees, or we file lawsuits in circuit court against people engaged in unlicensed activity. The reality is that our workload, like many other state agencies, is extremely high, and therefore it can take a while for us to process a complaint when it's filed. However, most of our complaints are handled in the order that they are received, in all fairness to people that are waiting in line. And I have to say, the reality is that most complaints will not result in legal action. As a matter of fact, most of them are closed for insufficient evidence. And that is because those who have complaints filed against them and that we investigate and prosecute, they do have a right to due process. RICO, therefore, cannot proceed with enforcement action unless we have very good, reliable evidence that will stand up to pretty good defenses at time. In other words, we have to meet our burden of proof under the law, and sometimes that's just not possible with the evidence that we do have. However, it is important to know that even if RICO cannot do something in a case, that does not mean as a consumer that you weren't wronged or harmed. And you always have private remedies available to you, such as pursuing relief in a court of law. So even if we end up closing a case, we're not saying that you weren't wronged or you weren't harmed. Because RICO has a huge workload, thousands of complaints that are filed every year, I think our best enforcement tool is you as an educated consumer. Therefore, we spend a lot of our resources trying to educate the public and consumers about the industries that we regulate. The primary way that we do so is through our website. On our website, you will find free downloadable brochures about several industries and the nuances involved in them. And in fact, if you've been provided with the Hire a Licensed Contractor brochure and the risks and responsibilities of being an owner builder, those brochures are on our website and available to anyone. In addition, our website has what is called the RICO Complaints History Portal. It's very easy to use. All you have to do is plug in the name of a person or a company, and it will show you whether or not they have a history with RICO. It'll show you if there are pending complaints. It'll show you if they've been disciplined. It'll show you if we filed a lawsuit against them and received a judgment. So that is on our website. In addition, we do attend the National Consumer Protection Week Fair, which is held on Oahu in March of every year, and it is sponsored by the DCCA. We try to have a presence at civic and trade shows. So we are a regular booth at the BIA Home Show that's held annually on Oahu in January and August. And we try to make appearances in community settings or community groups like tonight in order to educate the public. And in addition, when we process complaints, when complaints are filed, our investigators and our attorneys spend quite a bit of time just educating licensees about the law and helping them to stay in compliance. Now I'd like to go on to the rebuilding tips. And the tips that I have for you tonight concern selecting a contractor. So I have 10 specific tips. The first tip is to be patient. When you're rebuilding or when you are remodeling, the end result will be something that you will have to live with 24/7 and possibly for the rest of your life. So take your time to think about what you want and be deliberate in your planning. The second step is to have a concrete idea or plan for your build or remodel. Research ideas online. There are plenty of them available to you. And do site inspections too. And what we mean by that is go out into your neighborhood or have your family and friends check out properties, and they know what your likings and desires are. And if they see something that you think you might be interested in, or you see something that you might be interested in, note the address. And then go back and go onto the county website, DPP in the county, city and county of Honolulu, enter the address. You should be able to pull up the plans for that house, if any additions were made, who the contractor was for the project, who the draftsman was, and you could actually give them a call or even interview the homeowner. Use these resources to flesh out a plan or design that you want. The next tip is to consider timing. And I know right now timing may be difficult because of availability of contractors or availability of resources, but all things being equal, consider the timing of your build. What time of year would you like to have it built? Summer, ideally, because the weather is good, but many contractors are busy summer and year-round as well. Also, do you have school-age children or keiki? And if so, you might want to consider having the build while they're at school so that there's less distractions. So tip number 3 is to consider timing. Tip number 4 is your budget. It's good to get a general idea of how much your build will cost you. You can go online and there are tools that will help you. You can even ask someone who has a house that you're interested in as far as the design is and try to find out how much they paid for that. However it is that you come up with an estimate for your build, be sure to pad it a little bit because there are things that factor into the build that could end up being more than what you initially thought, like changes and overruns. In addition, labor costs, material costs, and accessibility issues can affect your budget ultimately, so it's good to pad it a little. And then affordability. It is an excellent idea to interview lenders and go around and find out exactly how much you qualify for, therefore how much you can afford to put into your build. The next 5 tips that I have for you really concern being consumer ready. In other words, you know what you want, you have an idea, you have a budget. Now it's time to start getting ready to buy. As a consumer of contracting services, please be aware of potential dangers that are unique to you as that type of consumer. And the reason I say be aware of potential dangers is because the number of contracting complaints are always in the top 3 of the total number of complaints that RICO receives annually. What this means is that there are a lot of unsatisfied homeowners out there who utilize contracting services. I think we're on slide number 3. Okay, so the licensure requirement I believe it was the prior slide. Okay, so basically, contractors are required to be licensed in the state. The licensure requirement is designed to protect consumers like you. The boards vet these applicants, and then they will issue licenses to persons who are competent and able to meet the stringent requirements of licensure. The biggest danger to you as a consumer of contracting services is unlicensed contracting. What's an unlicensed contractor? Well, an unlicensed contractor is a person or company who does construction work, but they do not have a license from the Contractors Licensing Board. Unlicensed contracting is a regular occurrence in our state. It's very popular for smaller projects that are in homes that can be hidden or are not noticeable, like a bathroom remodel or a kitchen remodel. Unlicensed contractors get work because they solicit door to door. They knock on your door and see if you need any help. Not only that, they can show up. They notice something's wrong with your house or your yard, and they offer to do a small project for you to your satisfaction. They gain your trust, and you start giving them more and more work. And eventually, you may give them a big job, and in a lot of cases, they end up abandoning the big job. They take your money and leave you in a state of disrepair. Most unlicensed contractors will ask to be paid in cash only. So if that happens to you, a red flag should go up. Also, nothing is in writing. Everything is verbal with unlicensed contractors. Or if something is writing, it will be very bare bones, like an invoice. You won't get a detailed contract. Also, if you asked an unlicensed person whether or not they have a contractor's license, they could give you a bogus number, or they can give you a GE tax license number, or they could say there's no need for a license. I know what I'm doing, and it'll be okay. The sad fact is that homeowners choose unlicensed persons to help them remodel or rebuild anyway because, again, they're accessible, they appear at your home. Sometimes someone else used them and endorses them to you. Sometimes they're a family member or friend that they want to help out. They're not as expensive as legitimate licensed contractors, and some of them do have knowledge because they either have worked in the construction industry or they currently are working for someone in the construction industry and do unlicensed work on the side. You all know that it is very, very expensive to build or rebuild or remodel. But believe me, it will be more expensive to correct bad construction of an unlicensed person. First of all, you may have trouble finding help because professionals do not want to touch someone else's shoddy work. Next, you will have to live with the poor construction 24/7 until you're able to fix it. Your spouse and your family members may also be irritated by the shoddy work. You may not have enough money to fix the poor construction. You may not have enough money to sue the unlicensed contractor for damages. And another thing to consider is that RICO, in reviewing a complaint involving unlicensed activity, if a homeowner intentionally hired the unlicensed contractor, that is a factor that we consider in evaluating the case. Consumers who have no idea that the person they hired was unlicensed will take priority and precedence over those consumers who knowingly hired an unlicensed contractor. Now, there are exceptions to licensure, and I believe that's what the current slide is showing you. There is the handyman exemption, and this is designed for really, really small projects around the home. If the total cost of the labor and materials are less than $1,500, then there's no need for a contractor's license. This does not apply to electrical and plumbing work or to projects that require a building permit. These are projects that involve minor yard work, fixing a door or window or a cabinet that may have become dislodged, pressure washing the walkway, and minor painting. The other exception to licensure is the owner-builder exception, and I believe you do have a handout related to this, but the owner-builder is a status that the homeowner takes on himself or herself, and the homeowner becomes an unlicensed general contractor. The homeowner is now responsible for acting like a fully licensed general contractor. They need to be aware of the building codes. They need to assure that their subcontractors are licensed contractors, and they need to treat the people that they hire on the job as employees, thereby subject to employment laws. In other words, it is not an easy exemption to meet all of the requirements, but it does exist out there. Tip number 6 is do general background homework. In other words, do some digging now so that you don't end up having to dig yourself out of a hole later. Look at companies that do contracting work and whittle it down to 2 or 3. Then do general business background research. And what I mean by that is go online and see, does this company have a presence? Do they have an Instagram account, Facebook, X, a website? Most businesses today do have a presence on the internet, and if you plug their name in, they will show up. Next, if they do have a presence on the internet, are they responsive online? In other words, shoot them a message or post something and see how fast they respond. Next, is there a phone number? If so, call it. Call the phone number and see what you get. If you get voicemail after voicemail after voicemail, that should tell you something about the company. Next, check for customer reviews. Are the reviews current? If they don't have a lot of current reviews, that may mean something as well. And also check the Better Business Bureau, because if people have filed complaints against the company, they will have a record there as well. Even if a company has a web presence, that is not enough. Check for the local address or physical address and drive by to see what's going on. And the reason we recommend this is the obvious. If you have a medical emergency, you don't want to be telehealthing with your doctor or a nurse. You want to be able to get into a car or have someone put you in a car and take you to the hospital or the clinic or the ER. The same is true with the hundreds of thousands of dollars that you're putting into rebuilding your home. If something is going wrong with your project, you need to be able to find your contractor and you need to be able to hash it out. So knowing where their physical location is critical. Slide number 4, I think we're on it. The next tip is to research after you've looked at the businesses, they have a legitimate presence, they have a physical presence, they answer the phone calls, etc. Now it's time to determine whether they are a legitimate contractor. Because unfortunately, businesses can have a storefront, they can have customers, and they can do good work, but they may not have a contractor's license. Businesses that appear on Angie's and Thumbtack, for example, not all of them have legitimate contractor's license. So in order to find out if one is legitimately licensed as a contractor in the state of Hawaii, go to our website or call us. On our website, we also have links to the Contractors Licensing Board webpage, the ESLA Board webpage, and the EMP Board webpage. On these webpages, there are lists of licensed contractors, engineers, architects, landscape architects, electricians, and plumbers. So go to these links and look for the name of the contractors or tradespeople that you are thinking of hiring or have hired. If their names are on the list, then it means that they're licensed, which means they're experienced, they are competent, the contractors can pull permits, they have workers' comp and liability insurance to cover injuries of workers on the job. You can file a claim against the contractor's recovery fund if they engage in deceptive conduct with regard to your project. But most importantly, legitimate licensed contractors care about their work and they care about you. So basically, there are plenty of good licensed contractors out there. Hire one. There's no reason to use an unlicensed contractor. I believe we're on slide number 5, reasons to hire a licensed contractor, which we just went over. Once you've done the vetting, you've determined they are legitimate businesses, you've determined that they are licensed, then it's time to make contact with the intent of hiring. When you do this, identify your top 2 or 3 businesses and schedule a consultation. Be prepared for this meeting. In other words, have your pictures or your drawings or your ideas of what it is that you want to see. And if you can, have several eyes there with you to be at the meeting or to go through the walkthrough. Better yet, videotape the meeting or the walkthrough so that later on you know exactly what was said, the representations that were said to one another. Then wait for all the proposals to come in. The plans and blueprints, again, study them carefully. And if you don't understand anything, ask questions. Now is your time to understand what's going to be happening on your property and then make a selection. Tip number 9 is to review the contract or estimate very carefully before you do the signing. The contract should be in writing. The contract should contain material terms such as the dates, the price, a payment schedule, materials that will be used, the work to be done, and lien and bond consumer rights disclosures. Don't be in a hurry to execute the contract, but study it. If you have access to a lawyer, have them review it, because the contract is a legally binding document. In other words, you will have obligations under that contract, which you can be sued on if you do not meet. Likewise, your contractor will have obligations under the contract, and they can be sued as well if they don't meet those obligations. The final tip that I have is to monitor your project and keep in communication with your contractor, because if concerns arise, you want to talk about them early and resolve them as quickly as possible. And remember, good contractors will always work with you because your business and your satisfaction matters. The number one takeaway or tip that I have for you from this discussion, I've already said several times: hire a licensed contractor only. And I want to leave you with a reference. There was a news story that ran several years ago on Hawaii News Now. It ran on April 29th, 2021. The reporter was Sammy Solina. The name of the article was "Unlicensed Contractors Bilk Thousands from Trusting Homeowners Seeking Renovations." Unlicensed contractors bilk thousands from trusting homeowners seeking renovations. If you have 5 minutes to spare, I would look that up and I would watch it. It is very sad and very painful, but it really shows you that unlicensed contracting is a reality, and when things go wrong, it can really hurt. The remainder of the slides, let's see. Okay, we're on the last slide, which is basically, as I indicated earlier, RICO regulates not only the contracting industry, but 51 other industries as well. Your doctors, your nurses, your realtors, guards, etc. So go to our website and look up people that you're engaging in commerce with and make sure that they have a valid license. In other words, you are the best person, best able to protect yourself. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Esther. I don't see any questions for you right now. So yeah, I don't see any coming in. But what we can do is, if any other questions come up towards the end of the webinar, we'll send those to you and your team.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for giving us the presentation tonight. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Aloha.
And now we'll move on to Shane Agawa, Director of the Department of Environmental Management for sewer, updates to the sewer system.
Thanks, Steph. Good evening, everybody. Shane Agawa, Director of Environmental Management. Tonight, I'll just be giving you a short update of our wastewater system. Next slide, please. So here is the before and after. So this area that got recently activated as of today is the area below Honopilani Highway. The northern end of the zone is near Dickinson Street, and the southern end is near Shaw Street. So this finalizes the activation of the sewer service in what we call the commercial bubble, the commercial area. Next slide, please. So right now, our sewer status, we are at about 98% activated. It's about 3,460 parcels. There is a cluster remaining without sewer activated in the Wahikuli Terrace area. Out of those 66 parcels, I believe there's about 62 residential parcels. And we estimate that these lots will be activated in mid-April. And just a note that homeowners are going to be responsible for making sure that the lateral or your on-site plumbing from the clean out to your house is adequate and intact. And that's all I have for the update. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Shane. And now we'll move on to Ava Blumenstein from the Department of Water Supply.
Mahalo, Stephanie. Next slide, please. Yeah, thanks for having me. So we have a bit of a, you have to push again there. I think the heading is missing. There you go. We have a bit of a water supply crisis on the water department's public water system in Lahaina, and we wanted to present a potential solution to the community. Next slide, please. So we, Department of Water Supply, we serve the communities of Napili in the north to Puamana in the south, along with Honokaha Valley. And the system is interconnected, but it doesn't mean that water from anywhere in the system can serve any area. So on the map, the blue represents the north system and its general area of operation. And flow from north to south can extend to most parts of the south subsystem when needed. But currently the flow cannot go in the other direction. So Lahaina cannot back up Napili. And in the north system, our water supply consists of 4 wells, called the Napili well field, and a surface water treatment plant, the Mahina water treatment plant. The plant uses water from Honokau Ditch, which is water from Honokau Stream, and treats it to potable quality. And in the south system, shown in yellow, we have 4 wells and the Lahaina treatment plant that treats water from Kanaha Stream for potable use. And next slide, please. So water supply has been strained for quite a while. We have seen less rainfall. We see lower stream flows, which means less water intake to the treatment plants. We have had interim in-stream flow standards adopted for most of the streams in West Maui, which means that more water needs to stay in the streams and not be diverted. So new water supplies have been budgeted and designed, but not ready to put into production. Peak month supply started to exceed our system's reliable capacity around 2022, and we declared a system-wide water shortage. Then, of course, the wildfire destroying the structures on this south system resulted in demand temporarily being dropped. And now with reconstruction and restoring water services, as well as temporary housing, demand is steadily increasing. Next slide, please. So the department were mandated by county charter to provide water supply for housing and development as forecasted in the land use plans. But developing new water supply in West Maui is under the State Commission on Water Resource Management's control after all of West Maui was designated as a groundwater and surface water management area. So all new water supply and existing water supply needs a water use permit. So the new supply that is intended to meet the demand of the land use plans include the 4 blue boxes on the top there. There's the Kahana well in Honolulu Aquifer to be ready this year. Mahina well in Honokauai could be ready online in 2027. And in Laniapoko Aquifer, which is Lahaina Town, 2 wells could be ready by 2028. And then last or possibly by 2029, 2 additional wells in Honolulu Aquifer. And this would add perhaps up to 4 million gallons a day to the system. Next slide, please. So the first new source, Kahana well, was intended to be put into production years ago. It was budgeted, designed, and environmental permitting completed in 2019. It was not in production at the time of designation, so it's therefore not an existing use. It was not an active use at the time of designation. So for our existing sources, we filed water use permit applications they had to be filed by August 2023. And then applications for new sources that have been completed after that. So on that map, the red dot is the approximate location of the Kahana well. You can see it's at quite a distance away from our existing Napili well field. So that would help distribute pumpage better throughout the Honolulu Aquifer. So per the Water Commission's records, there's about 4 million gallons a day total now in existing and new use water use permit applications And that's roughly half of the available sustainable yield of this aquifer, of Honolulu aquifer, meaning how much groundwater is really available to withdraw from that unit. Next slide, please. So why we're bringing this up now is currently, so we have not added any new supply to the department system. We continue to see low rainfall even during wet season, and therefore less stream flow. The low flows in last month in February were extreme, like a 100-year record. And of course, stream flow first needs to meet the in-stream flow standards, ensure that in-stream needs are met before it's diverted for off-stream needs, such as Mahina treatment plant. So we had zero inflow to the plant for several weeks in February through about March 6th. And then in order to meet demand, we rely on our existing wells, the Napili well fields, but we can't pump them to 100% capacity because we start seeing rising chlorides and we don't want to damage the aquifer. So we have to back off on pumping. The chart on the bottom there shows the correlation of pumpage, and the axis on your right shows chloride levels. So you can see that that blue line at the end of February is reaching 250 milligrams per liter, and we really don't want to go higher than that. So we back off on pumpage, and we were prepared to go to a stage 2 water shortage, which would further restrict water use for all customers. Restrictions apply to all our customers, whether they're commercial, resorts, or residential. So a stage 2, then no customer could irrigate more than 1 day a week. But we had rains, brought some steadier stream flow, and we were able to start up the Mahina plant last week, but it's not really a sustainable situation. Next slide, please. So the petition that we're considering, that we want to bring to your attention here, we would ask the Water Commission to allow Kahana well to be put into production as we head into the summer and dry season. The well is permitted and ready to go, but it does not have a water use permit. So we have submitted our new use water use permit, and the commission is now looking at all the existing use applications. And I understand they may complete that review by the end of 2025. So if there are no other hurdles or petitions for contested case and whatnot, there may be a year or more before the new use application for Kahana well would be processed. So we are wondering if this can this well be exempt from the statute requirements through a declaratory ruling for the purposes of only resolving the deficiency we have in reliable capacity, and only for the purpose to serve our existing needs, so not new developments. So existing needs as the current customers, which includes the reconstruction, the rebuilding of destroyed structures, and the temporary housing for displaced Lahaina residents. It would not serve new development, new demand. So our pre-fire demand was about 5.6 million gallons a day on the system as a whole. And at the time, reliable capacity was 4.7. So we had a 0.9 million gallons a day shortfall. The Kahana well, if allowed to pump 16 hours a day, would add exactly that amount, 0.9 MGD. So we want to make sure that we have reliable capacity for existing uses and trying to avoid imposing additional restrictions, especially as we're heading into the dry season. So yeah, we're of course pursuing other ways to improve our reliable capacity through optimizing the source we have, leak detection and repairs, etc. But we wanted to bring this potential option to the community's attention. Well, that's all I have.
All right, thanks, Ava. And now we'll have a presentation from the Office of Recovery. John Smith, unfortunately, is unable to join us tonight. He's a little under the weather. So we'll have Patience Kahua and Aaron Wade giving this presentation on the CDBG draft action plan.
Hello, Steph. Good evening, everyone. Mahalo for having me tonight. So I'm going to do a high-level overview of the CDBG-DR action plan. And if we could go to the next slide, please. So the CDBG, let me back up. CDBG-DR stands for Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery. And we're here tonight to talk about the draft action plan, which incorporates and describes our plan on how we intend to use or spend the $1.6 billion. CDBG-DR funds are considered the funding of last resort and are intended to serve our most vulnerable or low to moderate income population folks. I should also add that the CDBG-DR action plan is a HUD document that outlines the disaster, unmet needs, and our plan on how we are intending to help our people. So mahalo to all of you who attended our recent public hearings. We did conduct 3, 2 of which were in person and 1 online. For anyone that wants more information on the action plan, feel free to take a shot of our QR code posted in front of you right now. And if you by chance missed the QR code, feel free to log on to mauirecovers.org and check out the meeting links under community meetings.
The County of Maui is dedicated to helping our residents return home. We're committed to building back stronger and more resilient while working to maintain all that makes Lahaina so special. This video outlines the steps for using the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Funding from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. This funding is intended for long-term recovery, and certain steps are mandated. The first step is to listen and learn community needs. We've started this process, and we've loved sitting and talking with you and hearing your concerns. We will continue that dialogue. The second step is to develop an action plan. This will explain what eligible programs will provide long-term recovery assistance to our most vulnerable populations. We'll also share why we've selected these programs. And the third and final step is for HUD to approve our action plan. Then we can implement the community recovery programs. So what's in our action plan? It's based on what we've heard from you. And clearly, you want affordable, safe, resilient homes. The County of Maui will work directly with Lahaina disaster survivors to help them qualify for recovery housing programs. Helping as many people as we can is a priority, starting with kupuna and our most vulnerable community members. We want to take care of our own. Housing programs will include single and multifamily reconstruction projects. We also plan to build new affordable single and multifamily homes, including affordable rentals. A first-time homeowner program is in the plan too. It takes much more than concrete and lumber to build a community. Lahaina recovery also requires key investments, all designed to respect our values and history. Our mission is to help our people return home. Together, we'll make Maui resilient, safer, and better for local residents. It's about restoring what was lost and providing for future generations. To learn more, please go to mauirecovers.org. Mahalo.
Okay. So the slide before you now provides a breakdown of how we plan to use the CDBG-DR funds. About a little over 75% is going to housing and then the infrastructure to support housing. So let's take a look at the programs now. So for housing, we proposed 3 programs. The first being the single family homeowner reconstruction program. This program really is about bringing our people home. The program will be similar to that of the Samaritan's Purse, where the county will build homes for those who qualify. The second program is a multifamily rental housing reconstruction program. And really this program helps to build back what was lost. And it provides support to properties owned or operated by government or non-government entities, excuse me. And the units are intended to benefit low to moderate income households. The third opportunity there is for renters, and it's a new housing opportunity, and it's a two-part program. The first part of the program is a first-time homebuyer program, where this is an opportunity for renters to become homeowners. And these homes will not be only made affordable, but will remain affordable. The second part of the program is to expand the rental housing stock for affordable rentals and to be offered to displaced renters through new construction opportunities. I'm going to hand over to Erin at this time.
Hello, thank you. The additional programs, aside from housing, the first one's infrastructure, and the goal of the infrastructure program is to fund repairs and upgrades for new construction relating to flood control, stormwater management, roads, water, and sewer, essentially. And then this can also fund parking where it's needed, both in the commercial and potentially in residential districts. For public services, this is a program that funds gaps or restoration of services and facilities that were lost. So this can include healthcare, mental health. It can include workforce development and job training and services for vulnerable populations and kupuna. And then finally, the mitigation program. This is a requirement of all HUD-DR programs, and it will allow us to address mitigation of wildfire hazards, expand water infrastructure, transportation. It does allow undergrounding of power lines and increasing renewable energy options. Next slide. So since we've done all three of the public hearings, we wanted to share with you tonight some of the most commonly heard questions that we got at the public hearings, because potentially it'll cue for you something that you might want to contribute or add to the action plan. So for the housing programs, most folks wanted to know when they would start. And as we wrap up the action plan, we'll then develop the programs and work with teams to get housing programs moving forward with the expectation of construction starting the end of this year in 2025. One of the most commonly asked questions was, if I already started rebuilding, is that going to make me ineligible for the CDBG-DR housing program? And the reality is it probably will, because the federal housing monies come with quite a bit of oversight and reporting requirements, including environmental review prior to starting a project. And if you've already started construction, that makes it very difficult to go back and kind of start from with a clean slate moving forward. And that's challenging to do with federal funds. But we wanted everyone to know that we've heard that as a really important comment, and that a lot of community members are saying that's a situation they're in. So we are working to see, check with HUD again to find out if there is a way to develop a program that could assist and meet the needs of the community, and then also see if there's additional pathways to do this outside of CDBG-DR. Next slide. For infrastructure and public facilities, one of the questions was how the county is going to use the infrastructure funds. It'll be prioritized essentially first and foremost by replacing what was lost. And you heard from Shane today, some of that's already happening. So quite a bit of work has been able to be done already within the departments, which is awesome and super exciting today, Shane. I just wanted to tell you I was cheering when you pulled up those maps. But some of it hasn't been restored. And so what we're going to continue to do is work on that restoration and then identify key infrastructure projects that are going to move additional projects forward and help to build, whether it's new housing, healthcare facilities, what have you, to expand and make more resilient the infrastructure network. The funding that's allocated for the infrastructure needs, is it going to be enough to cover everything? The answer is no. However, we are applying for lots of different funding sources to cover infrastructure needs. The funding is allocated for a 6-year time frame, and a lot of our infrastructure is going to be, multi-year programs. So we'll continue to both utilize county budget, state budget. We'll continue to look for federal funds, and that'll be an ongoing process. So while not everything can get funded right away with this source, this will continue to be an ongoing process that we can keep you posted on. Next slide. For public services, what's eligible for DR funding? So like I said, job training, kupuna services, mental health was one of the ones that came up very consistently at our public hearings for something people wanted to see more of, as well as healthcare. Decisions, when are those going to be made about what gets selected? So there are some facilities that fall under this that were county facilities. An example is the West Maui Senior Center. So there are facilities that are probably going to reach a higher priority because they're directly related to the disaster and what was lost. And then there has been, from what we heard from you folks, actually, through our engagement with you for public hearings, and as we said, you can still continue to contribute. We can prioritize those things in the action plan for funding. The last one is, since healthcare and mental health are so important following the wildfires, how can these be addressed using the public service funding? So they can be addressed through facilities or through programs, and those programs don't have to be like traditionally structured mental health services necessarily. So we're very open to ideas and feedback on how you would like to experience that as well. So thank you, and keep those comments coming, please. Next slide. Oh, last one. Okay. So mitigation, the question was, how will the county share information? All of the information throughout this is going to continue to be shared on mauirecovers.org. Related to CDBG-DR, I did put the link to Maui Recovers CDBG-DR in the chat. So you can utilize that to go straight to the plan and get additional information. The second question, why does HUD require mitigation activities in the action plan? Obviously, the goal is to prevent and reduce chances for future disasters. So goal is to make ourselves a lot more resilient moving forward. And then finally, could mitigation or infrastructure funding be used for fire breaks or to help homeowners have access to fire-resistant building materials? Yes, it can. And so we are looking at all of those things as part of the action plan as well.
Thanks, Erin. So what you can do now to prepare, if anyone is considering applying for CDBG-DR programs, we do suggest that you start to collect your financial documents, such as proof of income, bank statements, and most recent federal filed tax returns. We do also suggest you keep records of all your financial assistance received, such as FEMA, rental assistance, or maybe even assistance received through CNHA or other nonprofit agencies. Keep good records of your insurance claims, claims filed, any proceeds received as well. And the best way to stay informed about potential projects or programs that are being announced is to stay informed at mauirecovers.org/CDBG-DR. Next slide, please.
So the next steps, we did extend the deadline for comments on the action plan to March 31st. So you can submit your comments through then. We will have an update at the April 2nd Lahaina community meeting to go through kind of in more depth some of the things that we heard. And then finally, in April 16th at the Lahaina Community Webinar, we'll go into how that's going to reshape what has been, how the action plan is going to change based on the comments that you've submitted. On April 21st, that's our deadline to submit the action plan back to HUD. And then we're expecting in summer of 2025 for HUD to approve the action plan, and we'll be able to start developing and deploying programs at that point.
So why are we asking for your comments? Well, we want to make sure that we get it right. And our goal really is to help Lahaina recover. And so your feedback and our comments on the draft or proposed action plan will help improve the proposed programs. So your comments and our responses will be incorporated into the action plan before we submit to HUD for final approval. As you heard Erin just mention, we extended the comment period, and so we would require that your comments be submitted to us by 4 p.m. on Monday, March 31st, 2025. Next slide, please.
Thanks. So just to conclude, we still are open to feedback, and it is truly helping us to better understand the needs. So if you would like to submit comments and your thoughts, the direct public hearings have concluded, but you can utilize the QR code that's shown up here. It's going to take you to mauirecovers.org, which there's also the link in the chat you can find. If you just want to email in your comments, please feel free to do that at CDBG-DR@mauicounty.gov, or you can mail the comments to us at the County of Maui, 200 South High Street. There's two places to turn the surveys. If you did get the hard copy survey at the public hearing, it's like a feedback survey, and you want to turn it in person, feel free to do that at either the Lahaina Gateway Resource Center or at Kako'o Maui Service Center. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Erin and Patience. And now we'll go into the Q&A. Again, if you do have a question, please go ahead and utilize that Q&A box to type in your question. And let me just make sure I have this open, and we'll get started here. First, I'm going to start off with a couple of the pre-submitted questions. I want to thank those of you who did pre-submit. We did have a couple that were pre-submitted through Maui Recovers. So this question, let's see, I'm not sure who would be able to answer. Usually John would take this question, so maybe Josiah or someone can comment on this about evacuation routes. This starts with Aloha. We know there are complex issues around undergrounding utilities. However, what about prioritizing the evacuation routes? Can we get an idea when we will not have to worry about down poles again to prevent our ability to evacuate?
Thanks, Stephanie. I guess I'll just add briefly that, yeah, those are kind of the exact discussions we've had with HECO and other partners, is in terms of, where we need to prioritize areas and whatnot, given, maybe limited funding or, timeframes available. Really wanting to prioritize or look at areas that would essentially give the most impact for the dollars expended. And of course, keeping open evacuation thoroughfares and main routes of travel are going to be really critical to the restoration and revitalization of Lahaina. So we will continue that dialogue, but yes, that is a part of the conversations we're having.
Thanks, Josiah. This actually, this has to do with temporary permitting. Wendy, if you can answer this one. what is the current process and timeline to obtain a temporary building permit?
Hi, the current timeline depends on the location and what the permit is requesting. So it could take from 1 month to 2 months or longer. And the process is, if on the Maui Recovers website, there's a link to temporary dwellings that you can go through. And if you have any questions, I am available, and I'm not sure how to type my information. Stephanie might have to help me with that. Or you're able to call our Development Services Administration office, and we will put also that in the chat. Thank you.
Thanks, Wendy. I was able to put the website on there, the exact page.
Thank you.
Yeah, let me try to get the number on there a little bit later. Okay, and let's see. Okay, so good. Moving on to some of the live questions that were submitted tonight. This will go towards, I think, Kate, Planning, Director Kate Blystone. What's going on with Bill 103?
Aloha, folks. Great question. Happy to answer that. I just got out of the DRIP committee, and they are currently considering Bill 103. And for those of you that don't know, Bill 103 is a proposal to increase density, one unit per 2,500 square feet. And so that bill is currently at the DRIP committee, and they weren't able to reach resolution today. So that was their last meeting before it heads to they head into budget. So once budget is complete, then they'll take this back up again. And they had some important feedback for us. So the planning department and Office of Recovery and all the different departments that interact with the built environment will have to have some conversations in the meantime. But that's where that bill is right now.
Thanks, Kate. And actually, we have one more. This is actually a planning related question. This was, I believe, about the exemptions that I think were announced last month. There are some exemptions to fix things in the SMA area. Does this include inside the erosion hazard line? Can shoreline properties use this exemption?
Yeah, great question. Thank you for that. So the changes to the rules only apply to those properties that are where the erosion hazard line goes Malka of Front Street. So this is the 20th emergency proclamation basically said that if the erosion hazard line goes Malka of Front Street, then it kind of reevaluates that line and pushes it Makai of Front Street. So there are places though where the erosion hazard line goes, well Makai of Front Street. And so those properties in between Front Street and the erosion hazard line are also okay. We just signed a new emergency proclamation out of the mayor. So the county emergency proclamation, the mayor's emergency proclamation just went up yesterday. So it's our 15th one. Encourage everyone to take a look at that. And perhaps someone who knows how to use the machines can put the link in the chat. And there's a really illustrative map there that describes where these rules apply and where they do not, because we recognize that it was a little confusing to read the language. So we've provided a map and also described what like for like means in that emergency proclamation. So I hope that helps. I know this is confusing times, and I appreciate everyone's patience as we adjust.
All right, thanks, Kate. This question, not sure who would be able to answer, maybe back to Josiah, but this has to do with access, I guess, around the Lahaina Harbor area. They're asking, when will the county allow access to the undamaged Lahaina Harbor loading dock? And kind of goes into also the area talking about the parking area in front of Kamehameha III School and around the banyan tree, as well as the parking area on the corner of Front Street and Prison Street.
Thanks, Steph. Yeah, there are some, roadway improvements that would be needed. There's a seawall repair that will be undergoing along Front Street. You know, as I think the public is aware now, the at least security stations and whatnot are no longer there. So the limited public access on certain roadways are due to, you know, unsafe conditions or ongoing or impending construction activities to be taking place. Ultimately, for Lahaina Harbor, I mean, we would have to defer to state DLNR regarding safety of the harbor and any, you know, access or you know, accessibility constraints that they may have. But in terms of any roadways still being blocked, it would be primarily due to ongoing improvements to make it safe for residents.
All right, thank you. This next question is for Eva. This question reads, what evidence is there that the 4 new wells adding 4 million gallons a day are not connected to the same underlying aquifer?
Thanks for the question. Yeah, that's a good one. So the aquifer systems, like Honolua is one, Laniapoka is one, those boundaries of each aquifer system are established by the State Water Commission. But it is understood that there are some interactions between both groundwater and streams, and probably interactions between the adjacent aquifer systems too. So to my knowledge, like U.S. Geological Survey, you know, they do groundwater models. They haven't confirmed or refuted that these boundaries are accurate. But you know, for us, future well plans, including these, you know, 4 new wells in the region, they're cited to distribute pumpage throughout the region and throughout the individual aquifer systems, and doing that with the guidance from USGS and their groundwater models.
Right. Thank you. And this was actually a follow-up question from the same attendee. Is there a deep water monitoring well in West Maui to monitor sustainable yield? If not, how is sustainable yield being monitored?
So there is one deep monitor well in West Maui right now. It's in the Honokauai aquifer. And we, the Water Department and the Water Commission, we're actually collaborating on adding 1 or several additional deep monitor wells in Laniapoka aquifer. So the deep monitor wells, they don't monitor sustainable yield directly, but the data can indicate changes in the aquifer. They're monitoring things like changes in groundwater level and chloride. So that data can indicate if there are changes in the aquifer and response from wells that are pumping, and that data can then inform the Water Commission whether they need to revisit sustainable yield.
All right, thank you. And let me move on to, let's jump to a CDBG related question. Let's see. So there's a question asked about for the CDBG-DR action plan comments. The question is, will HUD look at the comments and compare to our comments?
Hey, Stephanie, thanks for the question. Yes, so all the comments that are received, we have to document and then also identify how the comments have been responded to, either by changing the plan or getting more specific about the comment that was provided. So yes, all of those will be seen by HUD and addressed. Thank you.
All right, and again, this is CDBG, thanks Erin. CDBG-DR, the action plan again. Does the action plan allow for funding for leasehold townhome properties? Will it allow for infrastructure to rebuild the harbor? You know, yeah, it's like that was basically the question. Sorry. Let me kind of just clarify that again. Again, asking if the funding is allowed for leasehold townhome properties and for infrastructure rebuild of Lahaina Harbor.
I can do the harbor, and maybe Patience can do the housing question, but the harbor could potentially be an eligible infrastructure cost. I think our understanding, and Josiah, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the state has said they have sufficient funding for the harbor, but that is a really good example of a type of an infrastructure facility that could be funded with DR funds. And then
Yeah,
Okay.
they did put in requests to the state legislature. Of course, that's still going through the budget process right now. So I mean, we'll see what comes out of this session. But the harbor could also be eligible for other funding sources, such as public assistance or other types of infrastructure money as well.
Sorry, Steph, was it the question about funding for leasehold townhome properties?
Yeah, so does the plan allow for funding for leasehold townhome properties?
It could. At this time, we'll need HUD's approval on the public action plan. And after we get that approval, we'll design the specific program guidelines for HUD.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And this actually question, I think, oh, I see that was probably answered in the box. I'm trying to balance to make sure that the box is questions, I'm not repeating the ones that have already been answered. This will go for oh, this is a water related question with Eva or Kimo. I see Kimo's on, Deputy Director Kimo's on. When will water service be available for Lahaina Harbor?
Okay, I can answer that. Oh, yeah, so we turned it on today.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, Kimo. And this is a question for Shane. Will the pocket of Lahaina Luna Road, I'm assuming Lahaina Luna Road, which has no county wastewater, be getting county sewage on the county sewage line?
Hey, Steph, I actually just finalized typing the answer.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Let's see here. Let me, you know what? I'll double check the box just to make sure I'm not doubling up on anything. Oh, this was another question that we got pre-submitted that is also about temporary dwellings, Wendy. What if I cannot find an architect or structural engineer to sign off on my temporary dwelling permit? Are there other options to obtain a temporary dwelling permit? This goes also for plumbing and electrical contractors.
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. The current process requires for a temporary permit that form to be provided. So there is no other option. Some of the products that we've been hearing about have a path to a permanent permit. So if you're thinking that the product that you're going to purchase meets Maui County Code, has an architect that's willing to stamp a permanent building permit, go ahead and reach out to myself or the GSA number that I put on there, and I can walk you through your specific product. And I will type my email in the chat now. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Wendy. This question goes to Eva. Does the water shortage impact water availability for fire suppression?
Well, not directly. The water shortage is source and not infrastructure. So, it doesn't, the storage pipes and fire hydrants, ensure flow for fire suppression. But the water shortage impose conservation measures that helps ensure that we have sufficient supply for essential needs, which includes fire suppression as well.
Okay, great, thank you. This goes to Patience and Aaron again, CDBG. For the first-time home owners program, first-time home buyers program, where will the land come from?
I did respond in the chat, but
Oh.
essentially after the action plan is complete, we'll put a call out for projects, and the projects will be reviewed based on a number of criteria, but location will be one of those. The locations will be prioritized essentially by projects within the fire affected area, and secondly, West Maui, and then finally elsewhere on island.
All right, thanks, Erin. All right. Okay, make sure this one is not answered yet. This next one, what happened? Oh, this is for Ava. Or Eva, what happens if there's no declaratory ruling for Kahana Well?
Am I on? Yeah. So, well, depends if we have more extended periods of zero inflow to the water treatment plant that we had in February. And, we don't see better chloride levels, then we probably have to go to a stage 2 water shortage and even a stage 3 through the summer to preserve the supply that we have.
Okay. Thank you. And let's see here. Let's see. Oh, this is a follow-up question to the land question for first-time home owners. Who is actually going to pay for the land? Is it county or HUD, or where is that funding coming from to buy the land?
So the land cost is something that can be put into the proposals that would come in from the projects and could potentially be funded with the DR funds.
Okay. Well, thank you. And again, a question about the funds, what it can be used for. Are we able to use any of the funds towards building a desalination plant? Sorry, pronouncing that wrong.
The water infrastructure is one of the categories that is being considered for the infrastructure funding from CDBG-DR.
Awesome,
I don't know, Eva,
you.
if you wanted to add to that.
You got it.
Thank you. All right. Sorry, going through this again, just making sure I don't repeat myself. Let's see. Are there, for CDBG again, are there DDR, are there any programs or assistance for homeowners? Well, actually, this actually might be more just overall help, not just for the CDBG-DR funds. Are there any programs or assistance for homeowners that have damage to homes? As I believe the number of homes are minimal. So basically, I guess if it was damaged, not destroyed homes.
I'll chime in. I've been Googling that question because we don't have currently a program that I know of within the county, but we can reach out to our partners, and then if there's a program, Steph, potentially when we work with our partners to, we can figure out what the link is to that and then post it on the push on Friday if we have something that we can connect people with.
Yeah, and Erin, I would just add, many of the nonprofit partners have been helping to provide assistance for those who have, things like smoke damage and whatnot, including, furniture and materials and things like that. Also, I don't know, Steph, if we'll ever at some point have our After the Fire folks, but one of the individuals they brought is one of kind of the experts in smoke damaged properties. Is so like where your home didn't burn down, but you did have some damage, and they had some really great advice as to working with like your insurance company and other entities in obtaining kind of the best reimbursement or situation for yourself in those situations. So maybe when we have them back next, that might be a good opportunity to provide that information again.
Awesome. Writing all that down. Thank you, Josiah. Okay, looking at this. This, I think, was a question. Let's see here. I think we got most of the questions here. I think there was a follow-up question to one that was already answered regarding the funds. And I see Patience is about to type an answer. Would you be able to answer that online, Patience, or
Sure.
talking about to how to describe when you say funds are 100% encumbered?
Yeah, well, no, so that's what we're doing right now. We're going through the comment period because we need your comments and feedback and to be incorporated to the action plan, and then HUD will review and approve the action plan. So we're actually in a critical spot right now to help us get towards access to the funds.
Mhm. Okay. Awesome. Yeah.
I will cancel
All
my.
right. Yeah. Okay. I think we went through the rest of these questions. Are there any, I'm gonna hold on just a little bit for any other possible questions, but looks like I don't have anything else coming in. So we'll just I think we'll wrap up here then. So we can go ahead and get to the next slide. I want to thank everyone for attending tonight's webinar. As always, we are recording this webinar, so we do hope to have it up by sometime tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon. I will say that our staff that does put things up on the county's YouTube, they're a little short-handed right now, so we're really hoping that they are able to get it up by tomorrow. But if not, check back tomorrow, check back Friday if you wanted to watch a replay of this presentation, as well as this. We'll also have the slide deck up as well. Let's see here. And again, we said it a million times today, don't forget to please give your comments on the draft action plan. You can find a copy of the full action plan on mauirecovers.org/CDBG-DR, as well as the feedback survey on there as well. And again, I hope everyone has a good rest of your night, and we'll see you at the next in-person meeting on April 2nd.